Hello, this is Kazaki Ijima. Today I'm going to talk about the Korean Japanese, as known as Zainichi, focusing on when, how, why did they come to Japan. The Korean immigrants in Japan has existed before the Japanese occupation of Manchuria, but a large-scale immigration had started when the Japanese began to occupy Manchuria. The word immigration in this context is quite bizarre, because although it was late of the occupation that Japanese actively started to capture and enslave Korean people, many Korean people actually moved to Japan by their own choice before that, even though it is safe to say they were kind of forced and displaced by Japanese. Japanese started its occupation of Manchuria in 1895, triggered by the assassination of the Korean Empress Myeon-san. There's a lot to talk about this incident, but the point here is that Japanese army used this incident as a justification of their army's occupation of Manchuria as a peacekeeping force, and have stayed there for 50 years after that. So the occupation began. The first thing Japanese did was to try to colonize Manchuria by oppressing the Korean people using police forces and Japanese kempetai. They took away people's lands, and threatened the farmers by debts, left many of them no choice but to seek for job opportunity outside of Korea, more specifically in Japan. So that was the first wave of immigration. The second wave of immigration was caused by, of course, Japanese government squeezing Korean people even more harder. They started a new project in 1923, which they did a large scale of rice farming in Manchuria. The reason here was to solve the food crisis for Japanese growing population, and they shipped 70% of rice that was made in Korea to Japan, while paid the Korean workers less than half of a usual Japanese salary, which was 2 yen per hour, while Koreans were paid 0.6 yen. This project caused many Korean people to end up in a serious financial situation and caused more of them to come to Japan. But in 1929, the Great Depression hit and Japan was greatly affected, which led them to the Second Sino-Japanese War, since the Japanese government saw the territorial expansion through Asia as a solution to their problem. This was an important event for Korean immigration. Since many of the Japanese men were taken to go to war, Japan needed more workers to fill the empty spot. And this time, trying to drive Koreans to move by their choice was not enough. So the Japanese started to violently capture and kidnap Koreans to take to Japan and enslave them. About 1 million Koreans were moved by force in this period. In 1945, Japan loses the Second World War. It meant Koreans the liberation of their country and their people. They rushed to go back to Korea, but soon they faced various struggles to make a living in Korea again. So some of them stayed in Japan and became the later known Zainichi Koreans. And that's the end of their story and my presentation. Thank you for listening.